Within an hour, she started screaming, shouting, "This very minute I want a C-section." Because she could not cope with the pain. Over-medicalization has led to increasing cesarean section rates.
How the way women give birth right now is more for the doctor's convenience. And then the pain comes and you're like, nobody can deal with this. You're out of syllabus. How does natural birth help with that?
All these deliveries that we've done, none of them have opted for even pain relief.
How is a natural birth different from a normal delivery?
Principle of natural birthing is you're letting your body do what it has to do by helping the body move around rather than taking an epidural and lie down in the bed.
Biggest advantage of natural birth.
Everybody loves babies. They're so cute. They're so adorable. But you know what is not cute? Giving birth to babies. Many women are traumatized by the thought of it. In fact, many women don't want to give birth because of it. Many choose to not have a second child because of it. But what if there was another way? One that would take care of your mental health and not give you trauma, so that when you do deliver your beautiful baby, the only thing in your heart is joy. This is what we are going to talk about today with leading obstetrician and gynecologist Dr. Sirisha Reddy of Motherhood Hospitals. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Sirisha.
Thank you, Amrita, for having me on this show.
So, doctor, one thing, so anytime any of us thinks about childbirth, the picture that comes into mind is that of a hospital. Sure. Right? There are doctors wearing masks and uniforms, and then there's family members waiting outside, and from inside the room you can hear the cries of the woman in labor and the cries of the baby. That's the picture almost everyone has in mind when they think about childbirth, right? And the reason for that is that childbirth has been, as you said, institutionalized so that we can safeguard the lives of mothers. Because India's maternal mortality rate used to be over 500, I think, in the 70s.
More than that, nearly thousands, yes.
Wow. Yeah. And now it is under 100, it's 97?
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And from what I hear, it's even lower, like 10 or 12 in UK.
Yes, very true, very true.
Yeah. So, and so that's the reason everybody is preferring hospital births.
Yes.
But clearly something is missing, which is why there is again a shift happening, and it's coming from the West. It's not something that we've started here in India. It's coming from the West, and this is a shift towards natural birth, right? So what is missing and why is this happening now?
Yeah, so as such, nothing is missing, Amrita. We are talking about when you're looking at institutionalization of this medical care or obstetric care, when you're talking about what has motivated it is because of the higher maternal mortality that has been looked into, where women were not given the optimal care antenatally, that is before the birth or during their birth or postnatally also. That led to majority of the maternal mortalities. So over time, things have changed over, and protocols have been put in, care pathways have been designed where mothers have been given optimum care during the antenatal period so that their safety is ensured by the time they come to the birthing part. So likewise, we have done that. But now what is happening is over-medicalization has led to increasing cesarean section rates. When you look at it, there's a trend of cesarean section rates slowly peaking up. Now, when we talk about roughly the percentages, we're talking about ideal percentages to be around 10 to 12%. Now we're shooting about 27 to 30% cesarean section rates. So when we as doctors keep looking at it and thinking about when birthing has to be such a natural process, is medicalization is promoting this sort of interventions into the mother's body. So that is the point where we have come through saying that, okay, fine, let us look at what can we do better. So we know we've come to a standard practices now. We want to look at what can we do better to help the mother achieve what she has to achieve in the safest possible way and minimizing the risk to her body.
Right. So this is not moving away from the way we know childbirth, but just making the body ready so that it can do childbirth without too many unnecessary medical interventions.
That's right.
Right. Before we go any further, Doctor, I'm going to give our introductions, our guests. What am I saying? Before we go any further, I'll give our audience a brief.
Sure.
introduction of you
Me.
and why you're here with us discussing this very, very important subject, because you're an expert at it,
Yes.
right? So Dr. Sirisha Reddy is an expert for over 24 years
Yeah,
now. You've
24
been a
years,
gynecologist, and you've worked in the UK. You've been with Motherhood Hospitals now for over 10 years now.
Yes.
Right, and you're an expert in normal delivery
Yes.
and water birth delivery,
Yes.
and you are an advocate of that
Yes.
over say a C-section
C-section.
delivery as
That's
well,
true. That's true.
which makes you the perfect guest
Yes, to talk
for
about.
this podcast for
Okay.
this particular subject.
Sure.
Right, so with that understanding of how we are not trying to replace the normal
institutional
way,
care.
institutionalized birthing, but we're just trying to support it.
Support it. Yeah.
Right, so let's then go a bit deeper into this, that when we talk about natural births, again, what most of us would think about is normal delivery.
That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
so how is that different? How is a natural birth different from a normal delivery?
Normal delivery. So when you talk about natural birth, what we are trying to look at is the emphasis is mostly placed on least medical interventions as much as possible to the mother during labor and delivery. That is what is our main goal on it. When you talk about a normal delivery, yes, it's a vaginal birth through the vaginal canal, but that can be medicalized. Maybe it might be an induced labor, or it might be a labor that has been promoted with some medications to enhance the contractions, which can be ending up with a forceps delivery, vacuum delivery, needing episiotomy cuts and all that stuff. So that is still achieving a vaginal delivery, but in a little bit of a medicalized route,
Yes.
which at the end might some mothers try to feel that they've lost the control of how they've birthed. That is what we've heard from them, saying that it was like something that they were not sure about what was happening. It just happened.
Right.
So they lost control. It was so much overpowering to them that other people were being inputs were coming in and all that stuff. So that is what a normal birth at the end of the day would be. They're saying that you might achieve a vaginal delivery, but with a lot of efforts and medications and medical interventions being put in. When we talk about natural birth, it is like you're just following your body's cues. You're listening to what your baby and your body is preparing for. You're just going through the flow. You're supported well. You have a support team that works around you. We have a labor assistant who will be there with you. We have a doula who will be there with you. We have a midwife, your husband, the major support that you get from your partner. He'll be there with you. They'll be just listening to your body. Listening to what your body is asking for. You talk to them, move around. They help you do all that, walk around and all. Help you with the massages and all, and help you to labor as your body is dictating. So there's no intervention. Nobody's pushing the labor. Nobody's trying to force labor onto you.
Right.
So that way, it's a totally different experience. Women tend to feel more empowered while they're doing it.
Yes.
And they tend to feel that they've done it. It's from their body that they've done it. The feeling that they get out of it, they feel that they say that I've achieved it. I've done it myself. It's not that somebody's made me push or somebody's coaxing me to do all these things and all that stuff.
So this actually brings to my mind my own
experience.
Okay. Which was 2 years ago. My son is now 2, right? And mine was a normal delivery. But it was very much, I was not in control of it.
Yeah.
Right? There were all these people around who were obviously taking care of me.
You. Yes.
Yes, they were. But I was not in control of anything. And it was, of course, like as labor tends to be, an incredibly
longer,
painful process, which is something that scares off so many women that they tend to choose C-section delivery on purpose. Like, to escape labor pains. And I don't blame them. They are incredibly painful, right? And so often women these days, and when you say that those numbers are shooting up, they are now 27% C-sections. As I know women who've chosen C-section, even though from what I understand, if you go via C-section, you take longer to recover. Your body takes longer to recover. And yet women choose that over going through the pains of labor. Yeah.
When you're saying that, very recently, I had a lady who had a very high BMI of 47. So 47 is like, too high a BMI for laboring women. So whenever she used to come to the antenatal clinic, she always says, "Doctor, will I have a normal delivery? Doctor, will I have a normal delivery?" I said, "Fine." We were talking about what all she has to take care of her diet and all that stuff, as per the protocols. And I said that you keep maintaining your weight, you eat healthy, try to keep your body more fit, and do all that exercises that we've been talking to you about. So you should reach the goal. So she was like totally somebody who was inclined towards getting a normal delivery.
Yeah.
And the day she came in, when she was, given the labor pains because she was supposed to be induced for medical reasons, then within an hour she started screaming, shouting. She was literally, the whole of the hospital the roofs were going off, saying that I need a C-section now. This very minute I want a C-section, because she could not cope with the pain.
Yeah.
So likewise, if this lady was well prepared, understood she was literally not listening to us. We were trying to give her the pain relief options also. She was not ready to take. She was literally nodding her head off, saying that, "No, I want a section. I want a section. I cannot take this. I cannot take this." So finally, yes, after, me intervening and then telling her that, "No, you look at you. First, listen to us. You want a pain relief? Fine. We'll get you the pain relief option if you think you're not able to cope with it. But C-section is not a call that you can take now at this point of time when there's no indication." And finally, she agreed, went through the epidural, then stayed calm, delivered 6 hours later.
Right. Wow.
And a normal delivery, which she was totally happy about. But then at a
Yeah.
certain point of view, as you say, they lose that control.
Yeah.
They literally, because they do not even visualize it, they do not even understand what happens during the birthing process, how to cope with it. Their coping mechanisms are so poor.
There are no coping mechanisms.
That's what I was going to say.
I did not have any coping mechanism at all. Yes. Right. And yeah, even I at that point was like, just do a C-section and get this over with. I was luckier than your patient in the sense that my labor, I think, lasted, like the more intense part of it probably lasted 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
Right? Not 6 hours,
6
which
hours,
is
yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, so I can see where women are coming from. But how does natural birth help with that? Is there better pain management? Are women able to cope better? What changes?
So basically what we've been seeing in our group of women that we've been, preparing for natural birth is when they start off understanding what their body is and how the labor process goes on and how to prepare for it throughout. It's keeping aside our diet and nutrition and your physical activities are different. Mentally as well, they are visualizing labor, they try to understand labor, they try to learn the breathing techniques, they try to keep themselves calm. So when I find all these deliveries that we've done, none of them have opted for even a pain relief, like simple paracetamol also. They've not taken a paracetamol as well. They try to cope with the pain through the breathing techniques that have been taught to them. They try to cope with the pain through the movement that they do in labor by, doing those exercises, being physically active. And using water. Water is another medium that water birth. And you can actually use water as your pain relief also. They get themselves immersed in water pool, and then the pain eases off. And they try to use all these various mechanisms like, massaging your backs or, learning to breathe or taking a little bit of a hot shower and all that stuff. And literally all of these women, none of them have even asked for a pain relief, like something to take off the edge of the pain. They're able to cope. Not even an
epidural.
Epidural is a big no here.
Oh.
In natural birthing, there's no epidural.
Oh.
Because the principle of natural birthing is you're letting your body do what it has to do by helping the body move around, gear up for the event, rather than taking an epidural and lie down in the bed. With epidural, what happens is mobility of the women is totally restricted. You're on the bed, you cannot move except left and right. So your progress in labor is going to delay. You tend to delay your progress. You get a pain relief, but you tend to delay progress. So that's what happens in epidural. So in natural birthing, there's nothing called epidural. At the most, you can ask for a simple pain relief like a paracetamol, but I've not seen none of my women ask for that also. Because they're coping well. Whatever the medium that they're using to help with their labor pains, they're able to cope. And the other beauty of this is, because the labor is not pushed with medications, you tend to notice the contractions are pretty body friendly. They are intense, definitely, like any labor, but then they come and go and they have their own space, and the pacing is also such that the mother can relax in between and try to wait. So when the pains are not intense on your body and you have coping mechanisms easily available and you have learnt that and you've got support teams around,
you're able to deal with it.
Yes, that gives you the answer.
Right. Because I finally did have to take epidural.
Epidural, yeah.
I had to take epidural during my
Labor.
delivery, and I felt like even that did not did not make much of a difference, or did not have much of an effect on the pain that
you still were feeling the pain.
that I was still feeling. Not much of a difference. Post epidural in my case. I was, again, like I mentioned, lucky to not suffer for
longer
a very
because
long
it was
time.
a short labor.
It was a shorter labor, and I was very active throughout my my pregnancy.
Good.
Yeah. So that was something. But so then, what seems to me is the biggest change here is the pregnancy period, and then how women take care of themselves during that time that affects the delivery.
Yes.
Would that be?
Definitely,
correct?
Because if you're looking at it, most of the women now are working women. Majority of them are doing desk jobs.
Yeah.
Like if you ask them, they say the 10 to 12 hours they're sitting at a desk. They barely get up for their nature calls. Apart from that, a little bit of a snack time. That's it. And they all say that they're sitting, and they sit in odd positions. They're not even taking care of how they're maintaining their posture also while they're working, and they have very less time to do any sort of workouts and all that stuff. So when you're talking about all these things, you tend to, you're encouraging the baby to go into odd positions. The baby is not in the optimal position for it to come in through the birth passage and come down also. So that is one thing that happens with the current generation you're talking about. And the diet. Because of all this working schedule that they have, when we talk about the diet, they say that we do not have time to, take care of our diet.
Yes.
It's like it's totally haphazard. I mean, they're not looking at the nutrition part of the diet at all. So when you're talking about not giving the right nutrition to your body, right nutrition to your baby, and no work-related activities that are going on that will help your body, which is already, it's actually designed in a way that it has to give birth.
Yes.
But just because we are changing the dynamics with our lifestyle, we are trying to make it more harder. Yes, I simply tell women that I give them an option that you want to go on to Mount Everest or you want to do a sliding slope. You decide which way you want to do. If you want to do a Mount Everest climb, then obviously you're doing it in the wrong way. You don't make your labor so hard, so painful. You try to make it easier. How do you make it easier is by taking care of these things. And it doesn't happen in the last couple of weeks. If you say, okay, fine, after 38 weeks, 39 weeks, the last trimester or the last couple of 2 weeks, I'll sit down and I'll exercise. It doesn't work like that. You need to be prepared throughout the pregnancy. You need to prepare yourself. You be focused. You concentrate on what is ideal for you. What is that you need to be doing, and be focused and get it through. And I'm sure that type of holistic approach that you take towards your pregnancy will lead you to a beautiful result in the end.
Right. So this is not something that I was aware of, that, sitting for long hours is something that can affect a baby's
positioning. Positioning in your tummy.
Wow.
You tend to notice they tend to get into odd positions. So the physiotherapists and all, they do a little bit of body works on the mother to align the position properly so that the baby, and specifically helping your body to open up a bit better.
Yes.
Those are the things that they'll have to concentrate on. That actually helps them. That we've seen when we start correcting their postures, when we start correcting their, the body dynamics and all, you tend to notice the baby tends to move down the pelvis literally
easier.
Yeah. As they are coming through the appointments, we tend to see the positioning and all, and we tend to help them to correct that and change that position and show it to them. See, the baby's moved from this position to this position.
Right.
So it's getting into the optimal position, and then start working out further from
It's something they can actually see in the ultrasound.
Yes, ultrasound scans. And physically also, the physiotherapist will be able to analyze the position of the baby.
So basically a lifestyle which has affected everything else has also affected the way we carry our babies and the way we deliver. Right? And so our lifestyle during the months that we are pregnant will have to be significantly different. Right? For us to, so that we can have a much more smoother, easier birthing process.
Right? So, for example, like when we come across some families, they come to the consultations and they say that my daughter-in-law, my daughter works everything. She does a lot of work at home. When we ask what work does she do? She does cooking. How does she do cooking? Standing. So how does she mop the floor? With the stick. How does she sweep? Yes, with a long broomstick. So this is what, I mean, they still feel that is all the work that is going on. So I say, okay, fine. Let's go back 20, 30 years. into history, and you tell us what were you all doing. When I asked the mother or the mother-in-law what we were all doing, they tell me they were sitting on the floor to do all that. They were mopping the floors, water was being brought from the wells and, but everything like throughout the day, they had continuous work, which helped their body to shape up and let the baby to descend down. And majority of them, they were all home births at that point of time.
Yes.
You look at, they were just working and they start contracting, and within few hours they were delivering. And they were not, many times they were not long labors. Yeah, they had, some went into long labors. That was what we were talking about. Access to the hospitals and all is very important. But most of them were like 2 hours, 1 hour, that's it. They got the pains and they delivered the baby. Pretty much.
Right.
So that's because their bodies were prepared so well. Their nutrition was also taken care of in pregnancy, as well as their physical activity. They were not let to sit in the couches. They were not let to rest for long hours and all. They were made to do the normal chores, day-to-day chores.
Yeah. So it's not just movement, it's the quality of
movement. That is very important, isn't it?
That's very important. Yeah.
So now currently, the current generation, we tend to incorporate all those exercises to them. We ask them to do those certain exercises that will help your body to get into that position, what our grandmothers or our mothers were doing earlier on. So which help them achieve the normal delivery. So, and these things also we say, let it be throughout the day.
Throughout
not like at a certain point of time. Don't say that, okay, today I've exercised, tomorrow 2 more days I'll take a break and not exercise.
Right. You have to be consistent.
Yes, consistent. And let it be incorporated. It will be weaved into your lifestyle, onto your day-to-day programs.
So doctor, if somebody, for whatever XYZ reason, maybe they don't have the family support, maybe they live alone just with their spouse, both of them are working, and they're not able to do this they not have this kind of a lifestyle through their pregnancy, which is most of us urban women, right? They'll be working till the nth month.
Yes,
until they go to delivery, they'll be working, right? I was lucky in that sense again that I went on my maternity leave a little in advance, like 2 months in advance of my delivery. So I didn't want to spend the final 2 months in Bangalore traffic. But most people don't do that, right? So till the nth moment, if they are having that kind of lifestyle, spending 12 hours in office working and they're not working, getting the time to work out and they're eating junk food, then what are the chances of being able to have a natural birth?
Yeah, that's what I mean to say. So they minimize their chances if they do not take care of it. If you're talking about, so that is the reason the preparation for this is very important. That's this thing that we try to instill into them, saying that, okay, fine, let us work on our bodies from the beginning. Try to find time. I'm sure, see, everybody, we have 24 hours of time. It is like, how do you work out? How do you get this little bit of times? So that is the reason I say do not do elaborate exercise. Don't think that I need half an hour or 1 hour for my exercise session. Try to do in between your work. If you're like, working from home or you're working from your office, try to find a slot where you can just go and do a little bit of physical activity that will promote you, and watch your diet. Diet is something that you should be able to do when you take care of, and try and cut down all the junk and whatever that we suggest you not to be pushing your body into. So do that. So for this, it's like, I wouldn't want them to be going through some lifestyle for months together and suddenly try to change it in the last weeks of their pregnancy, which wouldn't work well. And same thing, that again, it'll be an uphill task for them achieving anything. But you start doing it from the earlier stages of your pregnancy, at least from the 3rd month or the 4th month. Once you step in, you understand what is important for you and what will lead you to a safer delivery and a healthy delivery. Then automatically things will definitely show the changes. It'll become better at the end.
Right. And once you are in the delivery room, once you are in that final stage, right, then what are the differences in a natural birth versus a
normal birth?
Versus a normal birth.
So when you're talking about a normal birth, most of the times the women are lying in a couch on a bed. That's it. Or at the most, they might get up if you have a nurse with you who will help you to get up and do a little bit of exercise. They'll be able to do that. And touchwood at motherhood, we still promote, even though they're going for a normal delivery, try to promote them to get out of the bed and try to exercise and stay less on the bed, because of team of midwives or nurses are trained to do that. But then if nobody is bothering you, you're lying down in the couch for hours together, taking all that pains, and then you deliver in that couch in whatever position that the doctor is comfortable with, rather than what your body is comfortable with, isn't it? So in natural birthing, what we try to do is we just let the flow go through. We let the woman do what she wants to do. She wants to take a rest, a little bit of time she rests. She wants to get up and walk around. She moves around. She wants to exercise, do squats, she does it. She wants to do some exercises along with her partner, she does that. With her husband helping her to exercise. And as I said earlier, she wants to sit in the pool. She uses the pool for some time. So all these things happen. So during birth, when the right moment is happening, so we let her decide which way she wants to deliver. So we give her the option. She wants to sit and deliver in the pool. We let her deliver in the water. She delivers the baby in the water. If she wants to deliver on the couch, whichever position she wants to do, we have women standing and delivering also. They'll just stand and say that we want to deliver in this position. Fine, we'll support them with that. So there's no leg up position. The standard lithotomy position in this delivery method. So
this is something I really wanted to discuss because what happened with me when I was pregnant. Again, I keep going back to my experience, but it's such a personal experience.
Yes, that's true. And it's something recent in your life. And,
it's very fresh in my mind. So when I was pregnant, I used to watch a lot of these natural birth videos. And there's a lot of content from Western content creators regarding nothing from India, but a lot from Western content creators regarding natural birthing processes on YouTube, right? And which also talks a lot about exactly what you said, how the way women give birth right now is more for the doctor's convenience than for the patient's convenience, right? A patient lying there on the bed makes it easier for the doctor to operate upon rather than for the patient, because again, you can correct me, like when you mentioned that patient is giving birth standing up, like gravity is helping them as well. And a lot of natural birthing processes are also like around that idea that you let gravity help you into giving birth easily, rather than when you're lying down and you're actively pushing against it, right? Making it therefore that more much difficult. Harder for yourself.
Yes, that's true.
Right? But while I'm very thankful for all the people, the medical staff, doctors who supported me through my pregnancy process, right? But I did not have this option to choose the position which I'm giving birth, right? And also, I did not have the confidence to voice out that I want to maybe try natural birth or give birth in this position, because it's not something that is so common and widespread in India. I don't know of anybody who's done a standing delivery or a water birth delivery. So I did not have that much confidence in it either to actually go and ask about it. And then nobody mentioned it to me. So I gave birth the normal way. But this has always been in the back of my mind that natural birthing techniques make sense.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
So we do have some, this thing came in, like, when women come and ask us, like, there are some women who've had very bad backs, so some back issues, and also we had women, they were very concerned about how do we deliver, because I can't lift my legs up, or I've got a hip fracture, or I've gotten injury on my this thing, or something that I cannot wide open, because always this concept of delivery is like your legs have to go up onto, and then you're going to deliver the baby in a leg up position. Lithotomy position is what we call. So we had a lot of women questioning us on this, like, how do we help? How do we do that? Because I can't widen my legs apart at all. I can't do that, and how is it going to happen? So all these women, these are the ones that who had the issues, had been told that no, you do not need to look into one certain position. You can deliver whichever way you want. You can just lie on your side and deliver comfortably, or stand, or go onto all fours, turn onto your backs and all and deliver. So they were quite actually very optimistic about it when they've been told that there are different positions that they can look into, and they opted for, and they were very thankful that they could deliver in that way. In the sense, like, they were allowed to deliver in that way. They were given that option, and they could go through the process without hurting their backs, or without having that fear of some injury that is going to become aggravated. So so that is what. So looking at all these things, what as an obstetrician who've been practicing over so many years, I thought it was high time that we start bringing out changes rather than just sticking on, okay, fine, I know this, I've been doing this, let me do this. So I thought, okay, fine, I think we should all start looking into what can we do, help women change and get better, and try to achieve the most important thing in their life, birthing. Once or twice, that's what they do. And they do it with a painful memory is not going to be good. We would want them to do it with a happy memory, because it's a life lasting, as you say, it's been 2 years and those memories are still coming back to you.
Yeah, they're
to
going
look
to stay
into.
for life.
So we just want them to be happy memories for them.
Yeah.
And we do know that majority of the women, at least 70 to 80% of women are in that low risk category where we do not need to worry about the medical part of them, that they are fit and healthy women. And we would want them to go through this experience. We would want them to prepare their bodies for that so that they can achieve it with us being hands-off, not, being too interventional.
Yeah. So you mentioned something very important right now, that majority of the women, 70 to 80% of the women will fall in the safe category that do not most likely need too many interventions. Right? But yet, I was 35 when I gave birth, and I was classified as a geriatric pregnancy. And even though I was as fit as anybody could be, fitter than people younger than me, right? And so I was continuously monitored throughout, right? Which I was thankful for. This was such an important thing. I mean, that would be
that's true.
Believe, right? That it's better to be safe than sorry. So as monitored as you are, as many interventions as you get, probably it's better. That's what it's in our head, right? So then what about the older women in the 30s, 35, which are classified as geriatric pregnancies?
So, I wouldn't say that. I mean, 35 is like calling me geriatric pregnancy at 35. I don't think I should be venturing into, because now if you look at it, most of the women are getting married only after 30, 32s. And family is only starting at 35. And as you rightly said, like how you've been a fit mother, majority of them are pretty much in their, prime of their life and their fit bodies only. Okay, fine. When you're crossing over 40, you consider that, yes, that's called elderly prime is what we say, if at all. Because that is when crossing over 40 is when we start looking at, okay, fine, do you have any medical health concerns? Are there anything that I need to be taking care of additionally to the pregnancy part? But if even at 40 years of age group, if you're a fit woman, I should not be treating you anything different. You should be treated as any other pregnant woman. So we try to encourage, we do not try to, bias them looking at their age as one criteria to say that, no, you need extra monitoring or something like that. So we would be looking at being there, medical conditions, any background conditions that are there, none of them are there. Fit and well, you're the right candidate to go through the process. There's nothing to be biased about, just an age as such.
It's completely possible.
Age is just a number.
Okay, so it's completely possible to be in your 30s, mid-30s and still be able to have a natural
birth, water birth.
Right. Without pain medications.
Without pain medications, without extra interventions, as I said, extra monitoring. As we were discussing earlier, the more you try to monitor or more you try to interfere with the body, the more you end up medicalizing it and more you end up, leading up to C-sections and all that stuff.
Yeah. And often this has also happened, like, of course, many families, urban families have moved towards just having one child. Right? I feel that a part of it is also the fear of having to go through it all again. Right? It's not a joyous process for a woman.
That's true.
Right? The end result may be joyous, but the pregnancy itself is not for most women. So they don't want to go through it again. They're happy to stop at one child. Right? It's more like, how do I say, a chore, a responsibility that has to be completed. Okay, I have to do this. I'll do this one. I will not do it again. Is becoming mental makeup of quite a few people.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, it looks like from the sound of it that natural birth can ease quite a bit of that trauma.
Definitely. Trauma and then support also. Like if you are talking about medicated birth or may it be a normal delivery or a C-section, you tend to notice your body has gone through a rough patch and you tend to recover a little later. Recovery period is a little later. You need a lot of support around. And we tend to look at, there's a lot of delivery implications on your mental health also later. You tend to go into depression, all these postnatal blues, postpartum depression and all. They have a role into, how your labor has gone through or how your pregnancy has gone through. There are some mechanisms that will aggravate those things. So when you're talking about you've had a happy process going through, then obviously you will still have certain sort, because it's all hormonal also, what you go through postnatal blues or postpartum depression hormonal, but at least you can minimize it. At least a certain element of it is taken away. That trauma of labor, trauma of what you've gone through and all can be taken away from that. This thing.
So you nothing extra is affecting that. Like you
No.
will have what changes are happening in your body, those will happen. But you don't have to worry about other factors also
aggravating it. Yeah, that's true.
Right. That makes sense. You were in the UK for a very long time. What is the difference between natural birth infrastructure in Western countries at this point of time, in UK, in Europe, and in India? I feel like there's a vast gap.
Yeah. So if you, Amrita, when you're talking about that in United Kingdom, the obstetric part, majority of the obstetric part is taken over by the midwives, actually. So it is not doctor obstetrician led over there totally, completely. Yeah. So compared to India, where it is all obstetrician led, the care totally is obstetrician led. May it be in the private sector or in the public sector you're talking about, it is obstetrician led.
Yes.
So what happens in United Kingdom is, or in any other European countries, is when they're looking at this midwifery led system, it's a very robust system. They're equivalent, they're on par with the doctors. They do not consider themselves an assistant for doctors. You know, they're on that cadre.
Doctor, do we have midwives in India?
We are, touchwood, from 2018, some initiatives have started where midwifery programs have been introduced into our system. 18.
So very recently.
And the first institute for training, initiative started, but the training part is only started in 2022. A proper institute.
It's a baby
it's now. In the initial stages. We are still in that, early stages. But I'm sure going on forward, we would be getting more robust midwives coming in. And the midwifery system is going to be well formed, which would help us in both ways, even in the public sector as well as in the private sector. When you're talking about public sector, you need a lot of care over there for the women, which is a very focused care. Like how they do in United Kingdom is like, the midwife takes care of the complete care of the set of women that she has with them, their antenatal part, their medications, their whatever scans that have to be done. Everything is organized by the midwife. They have set principles that they follow. Everything is all protocol based. So the practices itself are uniform all over the country. So variations are less. Everybody follows the same way. And when they take care of the mother, they are very sure that the mother is going to be handled with them because she's still fitting into that low risk category. Anytime the women shows changes that she's becoming high risk, may be that she's developed a high blood pressure in the pregnancy or poorly controlled sugars or any other illnesses that have crept up.
Diabetes,
gestational diabetes or anything that, like a severely growth restricted baby, they tend to shift the mother to obstetrician-led care. They do that.
Right.
So total that big chunk of low-risk women are kept under them and they try to take them through the midwifery-led units. And by the location and by the geography and their access to the medical health services, they tend to either work within the hospital surroundings, having a separate midwifery-led unit where no obstetrician is led to enter. It's totally their care. Or they stay in a place where it's reasonably accessible to the hospital. So it's like standalone places and all. And they do it so beautifully with no medical interventions that is needed. In the sense they follow the same protocols. Let nature takes its course, monitor the women as much as needed, no unnecessary interventions that they do. Pain relief wise, same thing, because in midwifery-led units, you're not talking about epidurals and all. The minute you give an epidural, the minute you start the drips, oxytocin and all, then you start monitoring them, medicalizing them. So that care is, they kept into bare minimum needed. So that is how they try to promote vaginal births, promote natural births in their setups. And they do it beautifully because they're all well trained for many years.
Yes. It has been, this India has been there for quite a while, right? So it would be very mature right now.
Yes.
From what I understand. I also feel like this would really help the medical infrastructure in general, right? Because doctor to patient ratio in India is anyway poor. Right? It's not very high.
Yes, that's
so
true.
If a doctor has to monitor every birth, it's like a lot of burden on every doctor.
Obstetricians.
On obstetricians, exactly. Right? Well, if there were midwives who were helping them with that, then the burden would be significantly lower.
Definitely. Even in you're talking about the private institutions also, if you have a midwifery-led care system that can work along with the obstetric care, obviously it will work wonders for the mothers because you're in the safe environment, You know that you're being handled with minimal interventions. You're going through the minimal interventional policy. And you're sure that your birth is going to be taken care of in a safe mode. Whichever way it is needed. If it is going smoothly in the same direction that it has to go, it will be led in a midwifery-led unit. If there is any changes that happen, the doctors are available. It's not that you don't need to be scared about saying that what is going to happen to me.
Yeah,
like what if things change?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Say if at any point of time, either during the pregnancy or during delivery,
yes.
if complications arise,
yes.
like how does one, are doctors available right there during the natural
birthing process?
Yeah, because if it's led by a midwife, then is a doctor present when the delivery is actually happening, so that if something goes off, they can be brought in.
Yeah, that's what I mean to say. So what we are trying to do in our hybrid model of natural birthing, what we're doing is when the woman is going in labor and she's birthing, we are ensuring that our doctors are available while the care is being taken care of the midwifery unit. The midwife and the labor assistant and the doula are helping the mother too. And there are protocols that are, we set strict protocols to look into where do we cut off? Where is that pointers are looked into where the mother is getting into risk, like maybe that she's developing high temperature in labor, or we have concerns with the heartbeat of the baby while we are monitoring. Even that limited monitoring, we should be able to pick up if the baby's heart is decelerating or the baby's heart is going into an accelerating extremely high. So if there are any issues with the maternal condition like high BP, so all these things are monitored. They're not left to be unmonitored. We're talking about the basic things that gives us a idea about how is the maternal health as well as the fetal health, the baby health are looked into. So anytime we notice that we are deviating a lot, coming from the path of the natural the doctors are intimated and then the patient is shifted to the regular care. So for this, basically the counseling beforehand is very important. Like, you suddenly tell the women that you're going to go through the process totally and suddenly change it. She might not be able to take it well. Let us say. So you prepare them beforehand. So where are the cutoff points? Where do you think that when we are safer for to go through that? Then they understand when it has been discussed before and everything is being clearly explained to them much before their labor starts off. During the pregnancy
So then
period.
they're assured.
Yeah, they've got a birth plan that is put in saying that, okay, fine, how do your birth plan will go? What is that you're looking out for? What are your choices that you want to? So they tick off those boxes saying that, okay, I would want to do this. I would want this many people here. I would want this type of music, this type of lighting, all these choices. Along with that, we also talk about when things are not going in the direction that we are looking at, what are our options? When do we say, no, this is not it, let's look at the other route. They understand each and everything beforehand. So when time comes, when we talk to them about when situations arise, they're totally in agreement with that. So they do not, feel let down or something. They totally, because they understand at that point of time, it's for their baby's health and for their health that we're doing it.
Right. So because I imagine that in India right now, for any patient, for an expecting mother to go with natural birth, right? She will have some concerns because something different that she's doing. Probably everybody around her is going the way
regularly.
Regularly it happens in India, right? So she'll probably need more reassurance, better plans, more communication, regular communication, right? That something has to happen. Like this is how things will happen.
Yes. Right? That's what the team does. That's what the birthing team, along with us, they try to give them all these assurances and tell them how the program will work, when we'll be opting out, or when we continue with what are the safety protocols that we look at. Everything is being told to the couple in detail. They understand the journey very well. So when anything has to go in another direction, they're totally in agreement with that. So that is how the preparation, that's what I was telling you. The key to a successful natural birth is preparation, both physical, mental, as well as your dietary preparation. All those things will come in.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like the world has just become so fast-paced, right? That all these things like preparation, anything that takes time. Right? People immediately start thinking, oh, is this for me? Should I go this route? Will I be able to do this?
Yes.
We don't have enough faith in us to follow a regiment anymore.
That's true.
Right? It can be for birth, it can be for fitness, it can be for anything.
Yeah.
Right? It's so I can see where the challenges will lie, even though this is something that could be really good for women and for doctors who will not have to oversee every, delivery. I can see that there will be challenges.
Yeah.
Right. Doctor, you mentioned midwife and you mentioned doula. Right. Now, I know that both of these are caregivers that they are available in Western countries, but what is the difference?
Yeah, I mean, midwife, when you're talking about, she would have had a little bit of a scientific knowledge behind what happens in the mother's body while you're birthing. I mean, they have a nursing background also, is midwife.
Right.
Doulas are labor support staff, basically, who will be just there to talk to you, encourage you, to help you to move around, walk around, massage you, do all that little bit of assisted along with your midwife. They'll be able to help you out with that.
Right. So midwives are medical professionals.
Doulas are caregivers. They can be non-medical, totally.
Non-medical.
But then understand the process, understand what needs to be done, and be in tune. So basically what these doulas will do is like the mother gets related to them from the beginning of their pregnancy, in their pregnancy journey. So when they see them in labor, they try to communicate with them, or whatever they try to do, they're able to, be on coordination.
Right. So they're trained for their job, but they're not medical professionals.
No.
Yes. Okay. So what did I want to know here? There was something very specific that had come into my head that I wanted to ask you at this point. Yes, we just talked how the midwifery institution is very new in India. Just recently started in 2018.
Yes.
And in fact went into, started working in 2022.
Yeah, 2022. The institute has started, the training institute has started to train the midwives.
Yeah.
Some, I think in some of the, states like... Telangana and all, some hospitals have taken an initiative to train certain midwives to help the government. But as such, as an institute, it's just been recently launched in 2022.
Where is this institute?
It's in Maharashtra.
It's in Maharashtra. Okay, Sevagram in Maharashtra. Right. The reason I ask is because you're already working in motherhood hospitals and you're working with pregnant women and helping them achieve natural births. So who is your support staff now? Your midwives and doulas.
Yes.
Right, considering we don't really have...
no, that's what I mean to say. The nurses who've been trained with us, they help us now, and we do not have a named midwife as such, but then the people who have been trained in natural birthing are working as a part of our team, and the nurses who've been with us for the last 10 years, they are like totally concentrating on the birthing part only. So those are the nurses we've picked and chosen. There's hand-picked nurses are there who've been trained into this birth model as well.
Yeah. So these are medical professionals
who've been trained into the midwifery part.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense.
Yes.
So because I was wondering about that. Right. So hospitals will have to do that. They can't
that's right. Currently we cannot create midwives just out of the blue.
Out of thin air.
So from what we have from the staff who we know that they are geared up for this, capable and geared up for this type of methods of delivery, who can support the women really well. So those are the ones who have been trained and then have been encouraged into this program.
Right. So, doctor, we were just talking about, if women develop any conditions, they can be transferred to the hands of experienced obstetricians at any point of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. But will they still be able to have a natural birth? Like, say, if they develop gestational diabetes. Right. And so now their caregiving team also includes an obstetrician. Yes, but will they still be able to achieve a natural birth?
I mean, with very minimal interventions, they can still achieve a natural birth. If you're talking about they've just moved into the regular streamline, still they should be able to achieve a natural birth.
Okay.
Yeah, so but only thing is they need to be a bit more monitored. I mean, like you're talking about, the baby need to be monitored, the mother need to be monitored. So they'll be looked into a bit of supervised care.
So more medical intervention will come in.
Yeah, come in their role. Yeah.
Which is kind of right. Medical intervention needs to come in when there is a need.
There is a need. Yeah.
Right. And here clearly there is a need because this person has developed
conditions.
Right. Okay. And we were talking about, the support system that an expecting mother would need through her, to support her through natural birth. Right. Again, midwives and doulas aside, Western countries have them. India does not have them right now. at home, it will be very difficult to find that kind of an infrastructure in urban cities. Like
Yeah.
you might not have anybody else apart from your spouse.
Yeah.
So how do you create a kind of an environment that is very supportive for you?
Yeah.
Right? If you are in a family, so again, two parts to this question. If you are lucky enough to have a supportive family around, then how should they go about? How should they go about helping the mother? And if the mother does not have that kind of a support system, how can she go about helping herself?
Yeah. So when you're talking about helping, your partner plays a major role. As such, when you're looking at most of the families, as you rightly say, they've become nuclear families now.
Yes.
You do not have extended families. Very rarely you find extended families now for the support system. So, partner does play a major role in this. So we try to teach them, we try to encourage them to be a part of their sessions when they come in. It's not like the mother herself sits and tries to take the sessions. We do see that all these group of people who've been enrolled for these things, the partners accompany them throughout all their sessions, and they do play a major role during the labor part, because they try to, whatever the mother has forgotten during that time because of the pain situation and all, they try to, remind them of how to breathe, what to do and all. They try to, give all those, the education that they got in through those sessions. They try to, share it with the mother at that point of time. And they've been very good pillars of support during that time. When you come if you have an extended family, let's say your in-laws are there with you and all, we encourage them to be a part of these discussions to understand what sort of models of care that they can help them out with. Like, when husband is not at home, the mother-in-laws or mothers can help them to be a part of their exercise program, just to guide them, just to nudge them a little bit, to motivate them to get into that and do that.
Yeah.
So they all come in as a family when they want to go for the sessions and all, if they are there. Or pretty much. And if you're talking about a single woman opting for this, yes, she can still opt for this. It's not that it has to be, because the whole of the birthing team is going to support them.
Yeah.
But we are yet to get to a mother where she says that she's not got any support at home, no partner support, but she still wants to do that. Definitely the whole of the team will be working with her.
Yeah.
And I've got women coming back and saying after delivery, relating to my labor assistance, as saying that you're like my sister. I felt like you've done so much for me in this part, in the journey, like nobody would have done that. Like they connect to them so well. It's like an emotional bond that they develop with them, because they've been interacting with them over a few months. It's not like something that they've just seen them at that last moment.
Yeah, I imagine that would become a more personal interaction that sometimes it might be possible to have with one's obstetrician.
Yes,
because
that's true.
they're busy. They're seeing so many patients every day, right?
And if you expect an obstetrician to stand next to the patient and take her through the journey of labor, obviously it is like, too much to ask from an obstetrician.
Yes.
But this sort of emotional connect that they develop with the teams, actually it works beautifully for them. Their bonding is so good that when you see that, when they come out of it, when they finish that, when they say that, that's how they, related. They say that she was like my sister. I mean, she was so helpful. I don't know how much of massages she's done for me during that time. So that's what they try to appreciate that.
Yes, which is something I felt like I kind of needed when I was going through my journey, right? I kind of did need that. Of course, I had my family, so I was not looking at to get that kind of support from my medical staff all the time. But I will say that it would, if that were available in India, that would have been very, very helpful. That would be a very helpful resource. Because you're right, your obstetricians cannot have answers and time for you every time, right? So having a midwife, I feel like, can be a very useful
supportive
support system. Yeah, when one is going through that the journey. So I really hope that happens in India. Right?
Very soon, hopefully,
Yeah. Like maybe in another 10 years, the landscape will look different. We will have more,
definitely,
more medical professionals in midwifery.
Midwifery, this thing.
Yes. Yeah. And we talked about like how important is prenatal education. But what are the specific topics that women should focus on when they are getting this prenatal education for the natural birth?
So
Yeah.
basically, I mean, as we discussed earlier, the most important thing is the diet. They look into, a very well balanced diet that takes care of their nutrition and the growing child's nutrition,
Yes.
and physical activities that are incorporated over time. They're built up. It's not like something that you start off with vigorous activities from the start of your pregnancy. Your body is tuned to get into that mode. And other thing is understanding labor. That is very important. Like, what happens, what is your body doing, which stages, what is happening, and all. So there's something called visualization techniques that
Yes.
the labor assisting team will help you out with, the birthing team. And there's something called hypnobirthing, where yes, the women are taught to self hypnotize them, understand the process, what happens. They keep telling, yes, this is what is happening, I know this is happening, I'm okay with this. That is what so that is also available. And
this is all very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Because I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of people, I think even from within the medical fraternity and those who call themselves particularly to be of scientific bent of mind, they might be cautious of this. They might be like, oh, I'm not sure if this is something that should
be offered.
Should be offered, right?
No, pretty much. When you look at it, when women understand what is actually happening to them, when they go through what really happens, they try to understand that each and every step of labor process, they work better. They do better during that time. They know, okay, at this stage, this is happening. I know this is the exact this thing. This is where the stretch is happening. I know how to cope with this stretch at this point of time. If they do not know, whatever pain that they get in, if they've not prepared for that, they try to take it like the other lady I was talking to you about, that example that I gave you. Literally, she was taking the roof off. So because she did not know the pain could be that intense. There was no, so preparing them for, okay, what a pain looks like, how to experience that, and what all will happen at what stages, how it differs and all, will actually help them. And then how to calm yourself down.
Yeah, that's
how
very
to calm,
important.
how to keep yourself calm at each and every point. That does work for them. And then there's something called all these massages that they try to help them out with. How to do your body massage. The partner can do some body massages to you.
It sounds like there's a lot of mental preparation in addition to all the
physical things. Yeah. Right. So that's how you achieve, right? If you physically prepare, but you're not sure about what is going to happen at each and every step, you try to lose that control of it, and then you try to panic.
Yes.
So once you know that, okay, this is happening, this is what actually has been told to me, and that is what is happening, they're in better control, is what I feel.
Yeah, no, and especially visualization is a term that is very common these days. Like, it's thrown around in so many different contexts that people would know about this.
Yes, yeah.
This term, visualization. Having it used in the context of natural birth is not something I kind of expected, but it makes total sense, right?
Actually
that you can visualize what kind of birth, and tell me if I'm wrong about it, but what would visualization here incorporate? Like visualizing that you are in complete control, that the birth is happening smoothly.
The birth is happening and you're talking to your baby, and then you're letting the birth process go through, where you try to tune with your baby is what they try to do.
Right. So you're completely in tune with yourself.
And when you get to that stages of the perineal stretch and all, you tend to know that this is what is happening. So they understand, okay, at this stage, this is what the pain. They're actually taught with what is that pain scores are looking like and all. They're, given a little bit of taster sessions. They've got like some mechanisms.
Simulation?
There's something called, Epino is what they use. They try to, give them an experience of how the stretch happens. How much pain and all, what they'll feel and all. So they understand that. So they know, okay, fine, this is how it goes on. And
is it that pain simulator? I've seen a lot of, I don't know if you've seen the doctor. There's a lot of content where they put on that machine on men.
Yeah, men also, they try to ask, make them feel like, see what is your wife going through.
Yeah. It's the same thing?
Yeah, that is there. But then these are the other things that the women experience. That's something called a vaginal, dilatation technique that they use to show them how it will be when the stretch happens, how they have to cope with that stretch and all. And women learn to. That is like increasing their coping mechanisms.
Yeah, no, I can see that, how that would be very useful. Like better to go in prepared. then completely
Then
unprepared.
not.
Which is what happens. You go in there, you're like, I'm strong.
Yeah.
I can deal with this. And then the pain comes and you're like, nobody can deal with this. I can definitely not deal with this. I'm not superhuman.
Not set for this, not cut out for this. Yes.
Not prepared at all. Out of syllabus.
Out of syllabus.
So we have these strategies that women can use to cope with their pain and to put themselves in a better mental space. And we were talking about the birthing positions themselves, right? So could you tell us about a few of the birthing positions, the different birthing positions that...
So when we're talking about women tend to birth sideways, sleeping on the left side or the right side. They can birth on their all fours, like, with legs and hands.
On the ground. Yes.
On the ground, they can deliver on the bed, or they can deliver on a couch, wherever they want to. They can do standing deliveries. They can squat and deliver. If they want to do it like an Indian toilet type of sitting down, squatting, and they want to do that, they can deliver that way also.
Wow.
They can sit in a birthing chair and deliver. There's a birthing chair that's available, small stool that's available. They can deliver in that as well. Or in the water pool, when they deliver however the body wants, is comfortable with. So we let them do that. There's no set position. So when I say there's nothing like an ideal natural birthing position, what we use for, we let the women decide what is comfortable for her. We tell her, we just encourage her to identify the ideal position for herself,
that works
where she feels more comfortable and tries to deliver.
Right. Seems like a lot of these positions do utilize gravity.
Yes. The lot of mechanisms that happen during the descent of the baby. Some positions of the pelvis changes. The inlet of pelvis widens up. Some positions help the outlet of the pelvis to widen up. So each and every step has to be looked into what sort of changes we have to do in their body dynamics during that time to help the baby descend well. So in this way, everybody plays a role. The midwife plays a role, the obstetrician plays a role in this, to look at what is the ideal thing in this at that point of time to help the women to achieve that optimal position for the baby to drive down.
For the baby to come out, right. And can be different for
different positions of the baby.
So how babies
like
inside
if
your
it's
body.
in occipito-posterior position or transverse, all these things have to be looked into to help it ease off, rotate and come down easily.
Right. Does it ever happen? Okay, this just came to my mind, doctor, because we've seen that often what happens that the baby has come out and now they are not in the best position and now doctors' help is required. Does that happen in natural birth?
Yeah, but babies has come out and the doctors, this thing is needing is, you're talking about probably the shoulders not coming out, shoulder dystocia is what we call.
Yeah. Or the cord is maybe wrapped around the baby or something like that.
So that's what I mean to say. When these things are there, all these things have to be, analyzed beforehand. So what is the height of the mother, what is the size of the baby approximately, whether is it going to lead into any trouble. So when we're talking about this hybrid birthing model that I was talking to you about, the doctor is physically present over there. Even though the majority of the work is done by the midwife and your labor assistant and all that stuff, the doctor is physically present to the end stage of the mother, help her to deliver. She's physically standing over there. So analyzing how the labor is progressing is a work of the doctor still. And then analyzing how the descent is happening and what is the complications that you have to be expecting. You need to be prepared for. If you're looking at a laboring mother who you think that could be a bigger baby, might lead to shoulder dystocia, you need to prepare your team saying that the head might come up, the shoulders might get stuck, so let us be prepared for that. So all these things, like, it's a it's a teamwork that goes on there. So
this is something that would have already been analyzed and then
and be prepared for it. So if it is,
and the doctor would any
baby around.
So doctor, we talked about, you mentioned that roughly 70 to 80% of mothers will still fall in the safer zone where they don't have to be monitored a lot medically.
Low risk women,
right? But how do you low risk. But how do you judge that this is a person who is safe enough to go through natural birth and this person is not? How do you judge that?
So basically at our unit, what we try doing, Amrita, is we've got a proper checklist that we go through. Like when women are, first when we discuss and the women are interested to enroll, we actually start looking at whether they are a fit candidate beforehand when we start giving them the idea, because there's no point giving an idea and telling that you're not the right candidate. So we would have gone through their medical history before we do that. And once we've gone through the medical history and all, we think it's an optimal candidate that we can offer them this natural birthing process. Once they're opted for, then we do go through a thorough checklist which talks about the age of the women, the body mass index, the weight of the women, the height of the women. All these things also will matter how they deliver, because your body dynamics change a lot with your weight and height for
With height
delivery.
also.
Yes, height. Extremely low women, low height women tend to face difficulties in labor. So there's a cutoff point. We look at the height, and the cutoff point that we look out for the weight of the mothers, because when we're talking about for natural birthing, and especially when we're using water birth as a birth medium for them, we are, it might be difficult for an extremely obese woman to get into the pool, get out of the pool and all that stuff.
Oh,
And
right.
monitoring the child will be a little bit more important in high obese women during labor. So this high, increased body mass indexes can lead to need for increased medical interventions in labor. So those are the women who will not be fit to go through the natural birthing route. And as we were talking about the geriatric age, I wouldn't say geriatric age. Anybody, an elderly primary who is more than 40 years of age group might not be an ideal candidate, because the body is, a little bit not that, unless as we talk about a very fit mother who is
Yeah.
literally motivated for, we wouldn't say no to them.
Hmm.
Likewise, too young, less than 20 years, they do not know what is really happening to them, where they can lose easy control and all. We try not to push them into this birthing method.
Right.
And any underlying medical conditions are looked into in detail. Anything from their past history, current medical conditions are looked into. So once the checklist is done through, then we know that they're all safe. They do not have anything that can, deviate from the path of chosen path. Then they enter the program. They run through the program. During their antenatal period, anytime any medical conditions creep up, like gestational diabetes, which is uncontrolled, or higher blood pressures that are uncontrolled, which is called preeclampsia, or you tend to notice that the baby is extremely poorly growing, which is called a growth restricted baby, IUGR babies and all, then we discussed with the family and the couple, saying that, okay, fine, this is what has crept up, so probably it is better that we opt out of this and we still look at a birthing method, which is supervised birthing method that we do, which could still lead to a natural birth, normal birth. Normal birth.
Yeah.
Then once everything is going smooth and they come in labor, during labor also all things are rechecked once more, ensuring that antenatally what she was is during labor also she's still the same. No changes have happened. Her blood pressure is in control. There's no discoloration of the water. If she's come with water leakage, there's no meconium in the water. There's no higher temperature. There are no signs of infection. All these things are looked into when we say that is the mother is still fit to go through the process. Because as we were talking about, very minimal interventions are used. Very minimal monitorings are done. What is essentially needed is only taken care of at this point of time when they are in the birthing mode. So we try to be very cautious on how things are. We are dealing with a healthy, happy baby inside and a fit mother to go through that process. And touch wood, the journey is going to be extremely short, as we have seen. They barely labor for 4 to 6 hours, not beyond that. Actually, the start of labor to the end of labor itself has been noted as anything less than 4 hours is what we've seen. So, but even during that time, we don't want any, untoward complications happening which have been missed for.
Right.
So we try to do all that checklist at all points of time, before booking them, during the pregnancy period, and while they enter into that labor mode, so that we know we're going to handle the women safely without causing any complications to the baby as well as the mother.
So, doctor, when we're talking about this checklist, we're talking currently about you working with motherhood, right? You have this process at motherhood, right? But how widespread is the natural birthing fraternity? Like, are enough hospitals, even in urban India and Bangalore, doing this? Is this happening?
So when
such care taken at other places too?
Yeah. So basically, when we're talking about this, it's not like an unknown model in India. There are certain hospitals that are offering natural birthing. There is something called a birth village that probably you might have heard about in Tamil Nadu, where it's a totally segregated unit that they try to offer birthing methods. So each unit has their own protocols. Whoever would be offering something like, a midwifery-led units. There's this Fernandez Hospital in Hyderabad that offers midwifery-led care, totally midwifery-led care, because that's what I was talking about. They've started training the midwives and then started helping the government initiatives through the midwives. So they do that. So each and every unit has to have their own protocols, unless it's like a unified practices, which is not a unified practice in India. We do not say that there's no standardization of practices that happen. But whichever hospital that would want to offer this, they need to have certain set protocols. They need to have their SOPs very clear to know that how the process runs through, whether they're going to deal it safely. At the end of the day, we were talking about it's a safe mother and the safe child is very important. So we need to have all those guards kept in place so that we're dealing it safe and smooth.
Right. So basically, initiatives are being taken by hospitals in urban cities.
Yeah.
But it'll take a
still
while.
In a nascent stage. For us, our own motherhood group, we have 2-3 hospitals that have shown interest after we've introduced this. So they're also gearing up to prepare their units to help women go through this process.
That's
so
good.
Hopefully this spreads around. Every maternity unit should be able to do that, should be able to give the mother the power to choose how she wants to deliver, and that option should always be open to the mother.
Yes.
And an extremely well prepared holistic approach to their birthing journey will give them what they need, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So doctor, a key part of all this is of course diet, right? And in India we have this, we talked about how balanced diet is very important. And by balanced diet I assume that you mean like healthy diet of proteins and
vegetables, and carbs, needed carbs that should be there, and good oils, all these things.
Yes.
So we have this big myth about eating for two.
Yes,
I'm sure you would have heard about it.
That's what I wanted to ask about.
When you talk about the amount of calories that women would need in pregnancy, is like whatever they were eating before pregnancy plus 250 kilocalories is what they need during pregnancy, and 400 kilocalories that they need during lactation. That means you're talking about a sandwich. During lactation, they need to take more because they're feeding the baby, right?
Right. So when you're feeding the baby, you need more calories than when you're carrying the baby.
Carrying the baby. That's
right.
True. Not less. So it amounts to probably an extra sandwich that you eat than what you've been eating. So the essence of eating during pregnancy should be concentrating on whether you're giving wholesome food to your body, which incorporates all the proteins, the vegetables, the good oils, carbs, which are, a little bit of more use of complex carbs rather than simple carbs like rice, which has been a staple diet for most of us, at least the South Indians. So we need to look at a little bit of variations in that and try to get the best things coming into our body, best nutrients getting into you. Likewise, that is definitely going to help your baby development be better. May it be the nervous system, may it be their muscle strength, may it be their, integrity. And you tend to notice what you feed is what you get out later. How the baby behaves.
Eat for two.
No,
eat right for one.
Eat right for one. That is true. That is the message that has to go through.
Right.
No eating for two.
Yeah, because that one is a big myth that you eat for two people the moment you're pregnant and everybody around you is going to try and force feed you.
Yes.
And then you will be stuck trying to get rid of that weight.
Rid of that weight after the delivery.
After delivery, which is not fun.
It's not just ridding of the weight. When we're talking about what we keep telling the women is because the humongous weight gain that they try to get by eating inappropriately will lead to labor complications. You tend to notice that whichever method of delivery that you use, your labor is delayed if you had gained a lot of weight. You do not tend to get into easy, normal labor processes. And the medications are needed more. The medications do not work well when there's any medicalization that has to be happening. And you tend to notice that the bleeding part also, they tend to have a lot of bleeding. Women who have gained excess weight tend to end up having postpartum hemorrhage more and tend to end up cesarean sections are more for them. And lactation failure has been noted to be higher in women who have gained excess body weight. Post-delivery, they tend to lactate less because of abnormal weight gains. So that is the reason we keep telling them that there is no gain in you gaining so much of weight.
Yeah.
So it's only your loss that you're looking at each and every step. Rather than doing that, eat healthy, which is going to be beneficial to you and for the baby as well.
Right. Yeah, that's not common knowledge that
yes.
if you gain so much weight,
Yeah.
it's not just
everything,
about...
not about
Yeah.
just only ridding off that weight.
Yeah,
That's what we keep saying, that you gain weight. It is not just only the weight loss that you have to focus on. It is what is happening in the whole of your pregnancy journey,
is
what
impacted.
matters because of this unnecessary extra pounds that you've gained.
That's right. And doctor, so now you've been working for quite a while. You've been guiding women towards natural births, right? What are the biggest misconceptions that people have in their mind when it comes to natural birth?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is they say that it is still a normal delivery. They do not understand the differences in the sense like what happens, what is it, because unless you go through the process, you look into how you prepare yourself and what you achieve, you still feel that it's more or less okay, it's a normal delivery. And we keep offering them, would you want to look at this program? I just want a normal delivery. It's still a normal delivery. But they do not understand. So I think it's like awareness is very important. People are not aware, like what do we do to our bodies to prepare and get into a stage, just not the end result. We are just focusing on, I want to pass my exam. I don't want to know how I pass my exam. Similar to that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because as someone who's gone through normal delivery, now when you talk to me, I'm like, this is different.
Yeah,
right.
True.
This is not as
what has gone, what you've been experienced or what you've gone through.
Yes, but for somebody who's not gone through it, they'll think about it and they're just thinking in terms of the procedure.
Just
the delivery procedure.
The baby coming out through the vaginal route is considered as just
and they'll be like,
same thing. No change.
Yeah,
Let me just go for that.
I see why people get
whenever
confused
we try to counsel them, this is what they come. No, I'll just have a normal delivery. We say you're going to have a normal delivery, but you want to have a better delivery. Better preparation and have a better experience. So I think that awareness is still yet to hit our populations, which definitely it is going to do. It is going to change. It's not going to change overnight, but we need to be patient for that to see that change happening.
And so when we talk about we've talked about institutions coming up which are currently training midwives and hospitals taking initiative and training their own midwives.
Their own nurses,
right? What kind of help or support from the government and policy makers would you like to see, which would really help in building natural birth infrastructure and work for the women of this country?
One thing that you when we were discussing earlier, Amrita, is like the midwifery programs have been initiated into on the training institutes have been started. I mean, albeit it's just the initial stages, but then the minute you start getting them coming into the system more, many of the states taking it up and then starting to train midwives and then looking at midwifery as one separate entity. We do not want them to be just lost in what do you call that, the nursing teams and lost for practices. We should establish like how the United Kingdom has got a robust specialized midwifery system has to be taken care of. So it should be like, they should be a separate cadre for them. So where they are dealing with their own patient population, and midwifery-led units have to be coming up more or less, like a separate unit, standalone units or maybe associated with the hospitals and all, which in the public sector, as well as once you get it into the public domain, many of these trained people come in. Obviously, the private hospitals also could be able to look into, helping their hospitals have these standalone units along with attached to the hospital. The midwifery-led units can be, initiated. So the more the numbers that are trained, the more your choices become better. And the other thing that you need to be looking into standardization of care. That is the most important thing. Unless we get that going in India, all these initiatives will be like, somebody is motivated, want to do something, they keep doing it. That's how it goes on.
It will be.
It will be like, a particular doctor, a particular unit or a particular brand helping you do that. But if you would want it to be something that has to be uniform throughout our country, standardization of practices, standardization of care is very important. That, it is still going to go a long way to come through.
That can only come from the government.
That should be. It should be
like as massive as ours. That kind of
has to be.
standardization and scale
Has to be coming from the
from the
top end.
government.
That's true.
Yes,
That's
yes,
true.
yes, doctor. So do you see like in the next 5-10 years, do you see that India could have a better infrastructure? Are you seeing any positive signs there?
So over the last 10 years, what we've seen is, yes, people are a bit motivated, more doctors are motivated for evidence-based approaches. That is what we've seen over time since we've come back from what we've practiced. As I was telling you earlier, in UK, the practices are totally standard. I go to the north of UK or south of UK, east or west, the same practices, same principles, because they've got a college that works around the guidelines and how a mother has to be taken care of, and each and every hospital follows it to the dictum.
Right.
It's called guidelines. They do not deviate from the guidelines. They
Right.
follow that. So I think that sort of system coming in our country as well, like each and every state, or let's say it can be nationwide thing also, where practices have to be streamlined and set, protocols have to be set. Doctors have to follow the protocols. Then I think once it is uniform and people tend to, stick on to that, not to waver too much away from that, because they know that they've practiced that their safety lies in that, they try to go through that rule.
Right.
When they try to deviate, then they're just going to be unsafe, and I think doctors will not venture into unsafe methods.
Yes.
But here now there's no guidance, there's nothing, it's like out in the blue, so everybody tries out their own methods.
Right. No, in a country of India's scale, standardization, from what you're saying,
Yes.
is kind of highly
It's
required.
it's a
Otherwise, you will not be able to control the outcome.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. So, doctor, this was it sounds such a chat GPT
ChatGPT
word to
word.
use, but very eye-opening
Eye-opening.
conversation. So it's not something that is being talked about a lot in the Indian context of things. Again, a lot of information out on the western side of YouTube, say,
that's
for
true.
example, but not much
From
in
our
India.
this thing,
And let's hope you can change that. Let's hope that with this podcast we can
Just
shed some light
increase
on
the
that.
awareness. That's what
Yeah.
we're trying to look at, is get the awareness going on.
Yes.
Let people understand what is it, what they need to do to their bodies, and how they achieve.
Yeah. Because it can be a win-win for
Win-win,
both patients and doctors,
Doctors
right?
as well.
In
Yeah,
every
that's
way.
true.
And for the future generation, for the
Future generation
children
also.
who come out, I think
In a
it'll be better
safer
for them.
and calmer environments, definitely they'll have better.
Yeah. So, let's hope for the best.
let's
And thank
hope
you
for the
so
best.
much
Yeah,
for
thank
giving
you.
us your time. And why am I saying that when we have one very important thing to do that we've not yet done?
Okay.
Which is the rapid fire round.
All right.
I am. Oh, we've discussed everything. No, we've
Okay.
not discussed everything, doctor. We still have a very, very important thing to do.
All right.
And which is the rapid fire round that I will read out from my beautiful printouts.
Okay.
Right. And we'll make it very rapid.
Sure,
doctor.
sure.
We'll keep it only one
One word.
or at max 2 words if you think the
Okay.
second word is
All
really
right.
important. Right.
Okay.
So
Let's go for it.
are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Do you
definitely.
want some water, doctor?
No, I think I had water. Thank you.
I would like some water. Thank God I remembered that. Okay. What a waste of a fun rapid fire round otherwise. Okay, so doctor, here comes the first one.
Okay.
Biggest advantage of natural birth?
Advantage of natural birth is empowerment.
Yeah, women feel empowered.
empowered.
Yes. Instead of feeling like they are
Lost
completely out of control.
Yes.
Yes. One must have or must do for a smooth natural birth.
In focused preparation.
No. Yeah,
Very
I mean
important,
that word
It's
has a
totally
lot in it.
focused. Yeah.
Biggest misconception about natural birth.
Equivalent to normal delivery.
We discussed that, yeah. And best place for a natural birth, home or hospital?
So in the current we want it to be one word. So definitely hospital is what I would say.
Yeah.
Because you have the safety backup already there. And whatever happens in there, you will not be, if you at all, you have to be converted into an assisted birth also, it becomes an easy thing. Looking at the traffic that we all go through here and our infrastructure for emergency care here in India, I would say definitely.
Hospitals. You were right. This one needs more context. In the West, people also give birth at home.
At homes,
Right. But in India, currently for natural birth, hospital. That makes sense. That actually wraps up are rapid fire.
Mm.
But doctor, do different birthing positions have some specific, advantage?
Yeah, that's
Say
what
water birth, for example, or hypnobirth that
Yeah.
you mentioned.
Yeah, hypnobirthing is like a technique of understanding the birth process.
Right.
When you're talking about water birth, the positions in the water birth, obviously the mother takes what is convenient for her body. There's no set way of delivering. Whatever she feels like, whichever way that she tries to position herself and push her, she does that. So that happens. And water birth, basically, it's like totally hands off. We do not interfere. We do not try to touch the woman's body. The body is under the water. We let the baby come through the water on its own with the mother's efforts. And then once the baby is out of the water, it's taken back and put onto the mother's body. So it's totally like no interventional birth.
No intervention.
Yeah. In when the women is doing a little bit of in other positions on standing, we're talking about out of water, they might need a little bit of a support to help their legs or or give their perineal support, supporting the baby's head coming out of the body and all. That's like whatever is needed at that point of time.
So this is not from the woman's mother's perspective. This I'm asking from a doctor's perspective.
Yeah.
In all of your experience, which method have you seen that has been the most helpful for majority of mothers?
For delivering in the position
Yes,
you're talking about?
Yeah, for the
You're
position.
talking about position. I find actually sideward position is much smoother. When they're lying on the sides rather than on the lithotomy, they tend to
Right.
open up their pelvises better. They're bit in more better control. That is what, as a doctor, I'm quite happy for them to deliver in that position. But then at the end of the day, whichever
It's their
way
call,
it is,
whatever.
it is like, whichever way
Yeah.
she would want.
So I was supposed
doesn't
to
need to be leg up position like as we've always been taught.
Which from all the discussions seems like probably the least optimal position.
Yes, that's true.
Right. Yeah. So I was supposed to wrap up with the rapid fire, but then the rapid fire created a few more questions. Might as well ask. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, doctor. And we are concluding the podcast at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope that we get to do more podcasts around this subject or any other deep dive specific subjects around women's health and in future as well.
Yeah. Basically, that's what we wanted out of this is like awareness being spread to more women understanding is what can they do to help them achieve a beautiful journey in the labor, antenatally as well as during the labor. And obviously, the outcome of it is faster recovery, less trauma on your mind and body as well. And it's much smoother on the baby because the environment which we keep in labor rooms, where especially the natural birthing rooms, is extremely calm. There's soothing music playing around, no medical noises coming in.
Yes,
so that environment itself is such a calming environment.
That actually, I did not ask that question, but I'm glad you mentioned that unlike a hospital room for delivery, which is probably not the most
and bright, so
not the most stress-free environment. A natural birthing room is completely differently set up.
Yeah, the setup itself is different.
Yeah.
Where we're looking at lights, also moderation in lights and good music coming around. The choice of music is left to the mother. Whatever she wants is played on the TV, whichever way it is. And, there's an aromatherapy. Aroma candles are kept in.
Yeah.
So essential oils are used for massaging and all that stuff. So the environment is totally like a home environment. But with your support team around you.
Your support team, your midwife, your doula, your husband.
There's, very less medical objects are visualized to the women. So even the gases and the chambers that we use are all hidden. If there's an emergency, if I have to use an oxygen mask or something, that is also hidden out of the visibility. So we do not see all those things popping out.
This is actually a very important distinction between a normal room where delivery is done and a specialized natural birthing room. Because that would have a lot of impact on the mental space of the mother, which will then have a lot of impact on the entire process.
We try not to cannulate them also. So, it's like totally...
As hands-free as possible. As
supportive as we can and let them achieve what they can do beautifully is what we see.
Yeah, I really hope that more and more women are able to have natural birth as an option given to them in the coming years.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right? With the good infrastructure that is present in the hospitals, like, the hospitals work around an infrastructure for the doctors. and the doctors who are motivated and would want to support their clients or the patients with this mode of delivery, they should be able to help them out to achieve this. And it's not non-achievable task or something. It is just that somebody has to be motivated and driven to help them achieve that. And the right place, right people are there, and definitely things will move on well.
And hopefully someone in the right ministry watches this and then we can get things done faster. Right, which is always great.
Yes, that's true. That's great.
Again, thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for coming to the show. And all the best to you.
Thank you.
And to us. And let's hope we get this message across on the podcast.
Yes, that's true. That's the main goal for us. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that, Amrita. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.